Welcome. This is the Late Late Show with BT, where views with security and law are being provided to you, the public. We're reading from Cosmopolitan, March 2016, Food and Wine, January 2016, ESPN, March 28th, 2016, and Ebony, April, May 2016. By Lisa Bonner. When she decides to be a writer, early on, and that's regarding Mara Brock Akil. I always wanted to be a big action star. I wanted to be as relevant as Men in Action. Tim Cowan. This Tuesday afternoon off-season hitting session is off the record. Observation is welcome. Description is not. But it's no betrayal of confidence to report that Harper goes about his work with forensic vigor. There is an easy liquid flow from drill to drill, a choreography of blood, with Juan pushing a double-decker chopping cart full of baseballs from station to station, musician Chris Stapleton's voice carrying that same kind of brutal grace through a tiny speaker behind home plate. Inside this warehouse where four-time National League batting champion Bill Matlock is one page over, employing a career's worth of expertise to teach a couple of overindulged 10-year-olds to keep their weight back. All along, he's been a kid whose childhood prowess reads like a series of clerical errors. He hit a 570-foot homer as a freshman at Las Vegas High, threw 96 off the mound as a 16-year-old, hit .569 his sophomore year, then got his GED to jump directly to junior college to be drafted ahead of his class. Bryce also played football through his freshman year. A broken wrist took care of that. Basketball through middle school. He was the offensively challenged lane enforcer and spent a month each year on the beach in California with his family. The sheer velocity of his play his first 3 years in the league, running into walls late in blowouts, flailing at pitches out of the zone, barking at umpires who were determined to test the brash venom, was born of his quest to fulfill expectations. It followed 3 years of injuries and uninspiring production that birthed a new theme. He was overhyped and overrated, all before he turned 22. On April 24th, he stopped taking batting practice on the field, removing the temptation to acquire bad habits while impressing fans. You don't want to be a 5 o'clock guy, he says. You want to be a 7:05 guy. Still, there were times during Harper's 124-walk season when Williams would chide Harper by asking, "Are you going to swing that bat today?" Everything comes back to that swing. How far can that swing take Bryce Harper? Once the precocious wanes in the ranks of violinists or pianists or computer hackers grow, the rage to master subsides and needs to be replaced, consciously or not, by another pursuit. If they're going to remain celebrated and famous, they have to do something new, and there seems to be a limit to innovation in athletics. The nice lady's enthusiastic reaction to those last two answers triggers a chain reaction. Even the kids who didn't have the slightest clue what they want to be figure they can't go wrong with one of those. When it winds around to the biggest kid in the room, Bryce Harper says, "I want to be a professional baseball player." He really is going to be a professional baseball player. He's the best 12-year-old in the country. As Harper tells the story, his voice stays on a brittle edge. He wants to change the perception of baseball players, to become a single-name icon like LeBron and Beckham and Cam. Harper wants to elevate his sports profile through his play, through his fashion, through the charisma of his personality, maybe even through the fascination with the size of the first free agent contract, $400 million, $500 million, that he'll sign shortly after his 26th birthday. Endorsements, fashion is something baseball doesn't see, he says. In football and basketball have such good fashion. It started when Orioles third baseman Manny Machado hit a home run against the Nationals last September and reacted with too much excitement, so Jonathan Papelbon drilled him the next time Machado came to bat, which caused Harper to suggest to reporters that baseball's code is tired, which led to Papelbon berating and then choking Harper 4 days later after the closer found his teammates' hustle lacking, a Rube Goldberg display of baseball's grim underside. I'm not saying baseball is, boring or anything like that, but it's the excitement of the young guys who are coming to the game now who have flair. Football, basketball. A fan in the sunken seats about 10 feet away, holding a glass of red wine, berated Harper with an intensity that couldn't be ignored. How did the kid who went to the LDS religion classes almost every morning in high school, the guy who still lives with his parents in the off season, get stamped with the word that's become America's all-purpose evasion? I kind of want to go back to high school. He drove the ball all over the field before facing lefty Tyler Skaggs, an eventual first-round pick of the Angels. He struck me out 3 times, and I walked back to the dugout thinking, wow. Was that the last time you faced someone you could say was better than you? Technically a laugh if defined by the strictest rules of Noah's classification, but probably closer to a scoff or a choke. Not even a little bit. He grew up in the shadow of that other Sin City Phenom, but Rookie of the Year Kris Bryant has quickly become one of the brightest talents in the game, Robert Sanchez. The father of last year's National League Rookie of the Year puts a ball on a tee, picks out a point in the upper right corner of the enclosed batting cage, and tells a 12-year-old boy to swing away. In his backyard west of the Las Vegas Strip, Mike Bryant is trying to teach yet another kid to be like his son Chris. Yes, that's Chris, the Cubs' 24-year-old all-star third baseman. The man who has become the greatest entry point to Chris, a preternatural talent who prefers to let his on-field play speak for him. He adjusts the boy's feet, tells him to open up his hips a little more. As proof, Chris' likeness hangs in the batting cage on a massive banner that adorned Wrigley Field last season, a gift to Mike from Cubs president Theo Epstein. The kid drives a ball to the upper corner. The boy nods. The boy shrugs. You could break that record, Mike continues. Use a slight uppercut to launch the ball into the air. If it was good enough for the best hitter ever, Mike thought, it was good enough for his boys. They hit for hours in the backyard. A few months after his 5th birthday, Chris was turned loose on the youth baseball players to Las Vegas. On one page, there's a photo of 11-year-old Chris swinging a bat with type notes. Top hand works under the bottom hand. Firm front leg. Massive weight shift through the ball. It takes Mike some time to dig through the papers, but he finds it buried near the back. They said Chris had light tower power, but wondered whether it would translate to a wooden bat. They pointed out his strikeouts. Wood bat, the same old stuff. Mike opens the door to the batting cage, checks his appointments, and plans the rest of his night. It's a place that's given Mike the freedom to concentrate on baseball, to move from the workaday grind of sales jobs to something he's passionate about. But the cage has also become a respite for Chris, a place far from prying eyes. When Chris reached the majors last April, he couldn't take his college number 23, which belonged to Ryne Sandberg and is retired. Mike had gone to the stadium early, as he always did, to watch batting practice. As his boy rounded third base, Mike greeted him, scooped him off the ground, and wrapped him in a hug. Pro batting practice started at 11, with Mike making Chris use the entire field to create hits. Mike also took to putting Chris at the bottom of the batting order. On the guitar's front, there's a painted picture of Chris in his batting stance. Mike still can't believe it. There's a message on the back. Chris needed to take his mind to the backyard, shoot the ball where the pitcher puts it. Over the Cape League's final 7 games, Chris raised his batting average 19 points. Mike and his 18-year-old Chris stood on the baseball field at Bonanza High School on January 28, 2010, ready to begin batting practice, while a gather of pro scouts watched. Chris was the best player in Nevada high school baseball. A catcher by trade, he could throw 95 miles per hour. Joey Gallo and his mother would laugh at the way Chris would wander to the plate like a lost boy and then smash a fastball off a pitcher a couple of years older. Each time Chris connected, the bat crackled. Mike has always loved playing catch with Chris in the cul-de-sac, father and son throwing the ball just beyond the driveway in the Vegas heat. This past off-season, Chris stopped by the house to play. When it hit Mike's glove, the ball popped like a gunshot. Chris stands off one of the grass workout fields one spring training weekend in March, across from the Cubs' massive indoor batting complex in Arizona, and thinks about how far he's come. He was sent down to the minors last spring because of service time issues, a subject that's now being litigated by the Major League Baseball Players Association. But constant in his game has been his father. Even last year, I was struggling at the beginning of the year. This could be the greatest team the Cubs have assembled since their last championship in 1908, which makes Chris one of the game's main attractions this season. Chris watches as the ball lands in the left field, berm over the fence. It's just another swing of the bat. Without saying a word, he steps out of the batter's box and waits quietly for his next turn. Carlos Correa. I was working with my dad at the ballpark every single night. At 12, when we got back from the ballpark, she would be awake cooking for us. Sam Miller. I wouldn't say it's a deal with the devil per se, but he's going to be involved from the start. He's going to have his medical people put their hands on the pitcher. He's likely going to take him to the free agency. At age 20, he was the best rookie pitcher since Dwight Gooden. It also matters because this season lands yet another flame-throwing young pitcher squarely in the middle of the defining controversy of this era, balancing a player's well-being with the team's best interests. Watching over it all would be the agent whom Fernandez switched to just before his big league debut, the devil per se, Scott Boras. Last year, 101 professional pitchers had Tommy John surgery, compared with 43 a decade earlier, according to records kept by the Harbaugh Times' John Rodell. From the beginning of the National League more than a century ago, the conflict between labor, players, and capital owners has spread to the field to the degree that decisions ranging from the shape of the plate to the date of Kris Bryant's Major League debut have been made with the economics of player salaries in mind. Everything in this sport is negotiated, even the way the home run derby rosters are chosen, or the matter of who will play to translate team paperwork into Spanish for Latin players, because the players and manager have such divergent interests. There is one group of people out there that feels that pitchers are a commodity, and you use them until they're used up. Then you bring the next person in, says a member of the MLB team's medical staff. This is now the team that will decide unilaterally whether Fernandez, ninth riskiest pitcher in baseball and one of the sport's brightest, most marketable stars, will throw 150 innings this season or 180, 210, 240. I don't ever expect to be a fan favorite, Boras said, both hands hugging a large teacup in his uncluttered office in Newport Beach, California. The common thread is that Boras has power and uses it, which makes him a threat, not just to teams, but to fan bases. He's been called the 31st franchise by ESPN's Jerry Krasnick and the real commissioner of baseball by the New York Daily News. Both were years from the big payday of free agency. In the case of Strasburg, Boras laid the groundwork early, even before the right-hander was hurt. In 2009, when the Nationals drafted Strasburg, perhaps the best pitching prospect ever, Boras required assurances from GM Mike Rizzo that he would be handled cautiously. After 12 big league starts in 2010, Strasburg's ulnar collateral ligament tore anyway, and he missed a year. As the 2012 season progressed and the first-place Nationals considered how much longer to let Strasburg pitch, Boras went public with both the carrot, suggesting that the team's roster was filled with Boras' clients because the Nats treated players right, and the stick hinting that they could face legal recourse from their insurance companies at least if they ignored medical advice by pushing Strasburg past 160 innings. Boras said he and the Mets were philosophically in agreement before the 2015 season about his usage. He will be the only player in history to go from 0 to 200 innings, having never flown 200 before. In February, the team announced that Fernandez will have an innings limit, details to be determined later in spring training. I don't expect teams to operate in any way other than their best interest, because that's how baseball works, he says. He's proven to be the best. It's not out of the question that he'll be traded to a contender by the end of July. And only Scott Boras, with a staff of studies and advice from the sport's top surgeons, will be trying to stop it. Am I That Bad Guy? Interview by Sam Alvey. Boy, that got out of hand. How did it feel to be the most despised player in the NBA for a while? Just after the All-Star break, you dunked so hard that the basket went crooked. I feel like you could be the key to this whole thing, requiring the Warriors to guard you. And here's DeAndre Jordan. You got to be able to guard them, but they got to guard us too. Back with Sam Alvey. Your big three have been together for 5 seasons. Why should we expect this year to be different? And DeAndre Jordan, we've been through a lot. This season, with its countless upsets and breakout seniors, has been anything but typical. The best on the board. Sam Alvey. On a team of jokers, he's the Clipper who is most likely to bark during a stoppage of play, photobomb a teammate's TV interview with a nose pick and wipe and crack wise with civilians at SoulCycle, where you'll spot him in the back because he says, I don't want those ladies staring at my ass. The Trailblazer. The best candidate for the job isn't always the typical candidate. Which is interesting that this comes up because I have been trying to find employment with my alma mater. And I just realized that a coordinator position would probably be best for me. So I've been trying to find positions where I can be a coordinator, where I can coordinate different things, because I like putting things together creatively. And I think that I could do that job well. And my degree is it's my alma mater. But since most of the coordinator positions haven't been in my degree, that's where the typical candidate comes in. The best candidate may not always be the typical candidate. So I'm hoping that my alma mater will be there for me during this time. And I'll still keep you updated on the master program, as I've mentioned that I've been trying to get into a master's program for acting. which more than times than not involves an audition. And I tried out for one, USC, I didn't get that one. So I only tried for two. And didn't get one out of the two. So still waiting to hear back from the other one. And it's February the 15th, and I'm feeling antsy. I'm feeling as though I didn't get, and I'm a little under the weather today, but I'm still doing the show, just to kind of, so I won't be stuck in the bed under the weather. Um, so, and doing the show always makes me feel better. So, kind of a healing process as well. And then after this, we're gonna do the full book. I'm gonna try to do the full book of 100 Years of Solitude, because I've been thinking about, it's just this story that's been dear to me, and I just really been thinking about how to put it into words. And I think once I broadcast 100 Years of Solitude, that will help. Just because 100 Years of Solitude talks about a fictional city, and um, my story that I want to get out is about family. And it's weird because don't come from I don't come from being very connected to my family. Um, I have attended, the Christmases, the Thanksgivings, but that's like one day out of the year, and it's different when you're connected, and the connection I that I'm seeking when you're connected on a daily basis. And it's just, I could just see the difference in how other people's lives have come out or turned out when you're daily connected, and when you're not even not connected, when it's no part of your own, when it's just, because you don't want to throw yourself on somebody, um, or pick up and like, where did this come from? So I was hoping that, the one that I'm waiting to hear from, that it would have a family vibe, and that it would be from day one, the 16, the ones that are chosen, that it will be one that will be connected, and that it will be one that will stay connected. And if I have to be the one to do that, will I be able to step up to that? Will I be able to be that person to, foster it? Um, even if I have to. So those are some of the questions, but we have to see, because I haven't even heard anything from them yet. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Be there so she can be here. From the boardroom to the basketball court. Fresh out the box, snag the best sneakers for spring. Black soles on the black top. She thought outside the box to get girlfriends on the air, straight to the big shots. And that's back with regards to Mara Brock Akil. So she thought outside the box to get girlfriends on the air, straight to the big top. And so the story that I'm thinking about, I would definitely like to get it out in film and on the air. But you gotta get it in the book form first. Black in the Box by Erica and Goodman. The latest installment of the film franchise finds Captain America with a new set of Avengers humanity. In this much-needed update, Samuel Jackson portrays George Washington Williams, a real-life African-American Civil War veteran who exposed the atrocities committed against the native Congolese by the Belgian monarchy in the late 19th century. Survivor's Remorse. Professional basketball phenom Cam, played by Jesse T. Usher, is back on the court for the drama's third season. The show, which is executive produced by LeBron James, follows Cam's journey to stardom as he attempts to balance family and fame. Sophia Tasty Pousey and crew are back to deliver an equally comedic and poignant peek into life behind bars with Orange is the New Black. Set in the South Bronx in the mid-'70s, the series recalls the birth of hip-hop through the teenage pioneers to what will become a worldwide cultural force, The Get Down, both of which can be found on Netflix. Erica and Goodman. Think big. Ray Al. When did you plant the Basigalupi vineyards? Back then, was Hillsburg a vacation destination? Where was the Basigalupis from originally? So I found that doing this, sometimes the questions don't have answers. Or if you don't know the answer to it, or if there's no answer, then how would you answer that? When did you plant the Basigalupi vineyards? I would probably say the 60s too would be a good time to plant them, to plant the vineyards. Back then, was Hillsburg a vacation destination? Probably not. Where were the Basigalupis from originally? Probably from more than one place. Pleasure is clearly at the heart of this revival, a dedication to making the best tasting versions of the drinks of the era while also loosening tacit rules about the right and wrong cocktails to order. Don't miss the next Essence Beauty Box. Twist, bake, and glaze. Michael Scaffo. Add the stock and farro and bring to a boil over high heat. Roast for about 20 minutes. Sweet potato and apples are tender but not falling apart. Fragrant Italian Red 2014 GB Verduno Pella Verga. And that's with Michael Scaffo. From Cosmo Quiz. The hot stranger offers to buy you a drink off the 400-page menu at a mixology bar. You Martini and stare at him until he goes away. B. Chardonnay, duh. C. Asks for the most bitter IPA. It's worth puking in your mouth a little. I'm not gonna answer that because I don't want to stare at him till he goes away. And I'm not into Chardonnay. You definitely don't want the most bitter IPA. I'm just not into beer. I'm definitely not into beer. Just in charge. The bottle. The bottle. The bottle. The bottle. The bottle. The bottle. Be a boss in the boardroom and the bedroom and spark major badass vibes all day, every day. What's the best sex toy for an amazing G spot? Oh, the elusive G spot, an area on the top wall of your vagina about 2 inches can give full body feels, isn't so elusive, thanks to the Form 8, which has a flexible neck to hit the spot every time. Bendy Bunny Ears offers some clit action too, for doubly awesome O's. Sorry. But once I saw myself as someone who deserved to be picky, the whole world changed. With Heather Havrilesky, with anyone who makes less than 100K, my friend Beth told me a few years later. She pressed her finger into the table to emphasize her point. I'd take months to decide whether or not to buy a pair of jeans. Maybe I did need to be more clinical in my assessment of potential life partners. So when I got back to Los Angeles for the first time in my life, I made a list of what I was looking for in a man. Ended up feeling like a tedious teacher trying to browbeat her fidgety student. I had also dated enough by then to know that superficial traits like a pretty smile and nice laugh weren't going to see me through the tough times. You don't need to read tea leaves or peer into a crystal ball to see the future with most guys. Their actions will tell you exactly what kind of long term partner they'll be, if you have the courage to step back and observe the truth with clear eyes. I knew at last I was either going to find what I was looking for or I was going to be alone and proud of myself for not settling for less than I deserved. Instead of falling into that trap again, I was going to put all my flaws and needs and desires on the table early on. Maybe not on the first date, but definitely within the first 2 months. What has mattered most of all, though, was the key item on my list. My now husband understood how important honest communication is to building a great life with another person. When either of us feels frustrated or angry, we talk it out until we feel better. That shared relief has helped me immensely. I accept my flaws and take care of myself in ways I never did before, thanks to the fact that I can admit my weaknesses to my husband and know that he won't run away from me when I do. Oprah Winfrey Harris. Suddenly, it was clear to her, as it becomes clear to so many African American women, that being black and female was oversexed. Even then, that can be further from the truth. As sexual criminals. This may be part of the reason that in many American cities, black women are more likely to be arrested for prostitution than women of any other race. Our sexuality is seen as a problem, something that gets us into trouble, Miller Young says. And while black women are more likely to be victims of rape than our white counterparts, per the most recent CDC data, we also tend to be less likely to be believed. This message is reinforced in lessons taught in many black churches, through the legacy of fear caused by the threat of HIV/AIDS in black communities, and in the hip hop culture obsessed with ferreting out holes in thoughts, an acronym for that hole over there. Not to be sexy, and I internalized that. I learned that if I was hooking up with a guy, I wasn't supposed to be aggressive or experimental. Plus, it's tough to admit that the messages given to black girls and women differ majorly from those given to black boys and men, who, like all men, are usually encouraged to be sexually insatiable to prove their masculinity. In fact, parents say a little to me about sex, but they also never used slut-shaming language and did nothing to curb my fondness for reading lusty bodice rippers. But the pervasive stereotype that black women in particular are hypersexual adds a whole other area of stress. Today, the sexual representations of black women are often seen as being too much, something that needs to be prevented rather than something that should be expanded upon. It's refreshing that in Shondaland, Olivia Pope is not only the boss of the Beltway, but she gets to bed her pickup humps from the bunkers of B613 to the depths of the West Wing. Is this the big deal that everybody's saying I'm going to hell for? And so in her late 20s, she took control of her own sexuality and began to embrace it. We've been trained in the trenches of love and war to demand that we get ours first. Having your orgasm first has become the bedroom rallying cry of empowered women everywhere. I've been practicing abstinence. The best way to eat healthy. The other major perk, removing the buildup, enhances your skin's ability to absorb everything else, from acne medicine to anti-aging serum. Lauren Balsamo. Hello, beautiful. Apply foundation with these densely packed bristles to create an airbrush finish. Sexy Beauty all month long by Lauren Balsamo. The ultimate lo-fi beauty tool, your dominant hand. Breton or Rainbow Bright, these looks are universally flattering, for real. Phobia and walk the line in both areas that totally trick the eye. Join the downtown tribe by piling on textured accessories like metallic woven sandals and hand-printed satchels and with heavy stuffing. The Taliban Shuffle by Kim Barker. Jessica Williams. A human being, not a cyborg who's trying to fix every problem. At a bar, I would just be thinking about how sex would be. Question about being a late bloomer. I certainly hope my life is in the late bloom stage, because I'm not in my 40s, but I'm almost there. It's really, really close. And my life is nowhere. I'm doing this show volunteer just because I like doing this, but I would like to be out and on the air. Um, I hope I'm a late bloomer and not just doing everything in vain. Up as a bottle of it for Halloween. Michelle. 21 fashion publicist from Alpine, New Jersey. The business woman I admire most is Tory Burch. In a multitude of ways, this is a fitting and familiar metaphor for the young NFL quarterback, nicknamed the beloved and powerful character. Somebody's supposed to be dead, Newton said at that time. The star QB wearing the number one on his jersey has been a fascinating figure for both the public and the press since his college days at Auburn University in Alabama. A day that started with clear skies and sun was beginning to see serious changes unfolding in the atmosphere. startles everyone. The storm's begun. Before the Panthers had even clinched the division title, the cacophony of the discussion with Newton directly at the center reached a deafening high. The battery of commentary about his personal life, the birth of his child, and old recycled stories about his family, chatter about his exuberant end zone moves, and of course about the dabbing, the celebratory dance seemed to overshadow an entire league. He told reporters, I'm an African American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare that to. If Cam Newton is the prototype QB of the future, Cecil Sr. very much fits the familiar image of the beloved blue collar dad. Encapsulates Cecil Sr.'s identity as a proud football dad better than the story they all refer to as the Maze Game. When Cam was a freshman in high school and Cecil Jr. was a senior, they team suffered a shocking loss against rival Benjamin E. Mays High when a critical miscommunication between the brothers resulted in two fumbles, angering both teammates and fans. We had never heard the wrath like that before, he says. His father says it isn't wealth or fame that motivates his son, but the core values he and his wife instilled in their children. Faith. Encourages the football star to consistently consider a few critical questions about life off and on the field. Who am I when no one is looking? He sought to lend to the media since the big game, and he truly wants to relax. He attempts to be as inconspicuous as possible, but onlookers instantly spot him, interrupting our conversation to heap praise and bask in his presence. After graciously showing his gratitude for their support, Newton's focus immediately returns to the conversation. He instinctively grabs his dad's hand to bless the meal. He had this cloud over his head, like he was going to be out of the league in 3 or 4 years, said his father. The athlete himself considers the laptop incident to be one of the lowest points of his life because of the shame it brought to his family. Raps or Beats by Dre seems like a natural fit, as does rapper 2 Chainz screaming, "You getting mad? I'm getting rich," in the background of a recent ad. And the partnership with Under Armour to sell cleats, shoes, and apparel makes perfect sense. One, Dan and Oakles to be exact, of a quarterback. But the public will appreciate you going about it in a more conservative manner. The bitter code. Strong winds have a way of rearranging things, sometimes to the extent they cannot go back to where they were before. It is not death, but life and birth of his son, chosen, that seems to have had the most profound effect on Noah. He's always had a special affinity for children, but the joys of fatherhood have transformed him. To be able to do that, run over to the sideline, see my little son, and he's going to think whatever he thinks, but that will be okay because it will be just our little moment. Despite the question defeat, it can be argued that he is not just the face of his team, but the face of the game. The thing that I like about doing the show is that I've used a lot of different information from a lot of different sources, a lot of different backgrounds, different type of writers, and different type of information. And it's a good way for me to stay abreast of what's going on. There are timeless information, like him being a quarterback and what that means, you know, and haven't never really thought about it. You know, the color of the quarterbacks, you know, coming from a school that was predominantly black, all the quarterbacks were black, and never really thinking about the professional football league, whatever their color is. So that's one thing that I like about doing this, even if it's volunteer. Whatever goes on air, for however long I'm able to, YouTube is available to do this. Because I was doing it with Bamboozer as well, but Bamboozer out and started wouldn't provide it at no cost. So it started being a cost that wasn't in the budget. So as long as YouTube is providing this, I'm going to try my best to provide this service as well. And if one other person listens to my show, that's one other person that has had the ability to be exposed to whatever information. I like to use stuff that's issues that are timeless, um, coming from a source in 2015 or 2016 or two that is still timeless. Now we're going to the book, and we have an out-of-network spotlight. But first, the book. The book is The Tunnel by Anthony Brown, and that's with an E. The brother played outside with his friends, laughing and shouting, throwing and kicking, roughing and tumbling. Out you go together, she said, and try to be nice to each other just for once. He didn't want his little sister with him. Don't be such a wimp, said her brother. That's kid stuff. We have to be back by lunchtime, she said. But the woods soon turned into a dark forest. She thought about wolves and giants and witches and wanted to turn back, but she could not. For what would become of her brother if she did? But now she was very frightened, and she began to run faster and faster. Very slowly, the figure began to change color, becoming softer and warmer. So it began to move. They ran back, through the forest, through the wood, into the tunnel, and out again. When they reached home, their mother was setting the table. And that was The Tunnel by Anthony Brown for the book. Out-of-network spotlight. These baking soda cleansers loosen up and dissolve dirt and oil while deeply cleaning and gently exfoliating dry skin. Your pores are left clean, soft, and smooth. Bior's new weapon in the fight for clean pores, baking soda. Deep cleans and gently exfoliates. Out-of-network spotlight, Biore. Free your pores. And that has been the Late Late Show of BT. So this has been the Late Late Show of BT. Bye.